Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the best monk build for Season 22, which is going to be the Patterns of Justice Tempest Rush monk, as well as having the new seasonal buff bonus, allowing us to not only get the huge benefit of Shenlong's set bonus, but actually allowing us to actually equip it with the 4th Kanai's cube slot, which was added into Season 22. Now, just as a heads up, I will be showing off 2 different builds as well as gameplay of both of the builds. The first one's going to be more of a meta pushing build if you guys want to push a very high greater rift, and the other build is going to be more for speed and getting things done cleared out relatively fast. But both these are going to be showing T16 gameplay, so I can actually go over things much faster here. So starting off, we're going to go over the meta build that everyone's running for pushing. Now, currently at the moment, the highest that this build has pushed, at least as of right now, is 144. But in terms of the builds, a lot of them are very similar, and there's a few things that you guys can swap in and out. So first off, let's go over the skills and how to use them, as well as the interactions, and I'll show you guys, again, both of the different builds. So starting right off, we're going to be using Sweeping Wind. We're going to be using Inner Storm. That's going to grant us some extra spirit as we maintain our maximum stacks. You're going to have this up at all times pretty much. It's not really anything that you need to maintain other than when the buff goes away. I have mine bound to the T key, but that's the thing that you want to basically upkeep at all times. Same thing with Epiphany, with the bonus rune Desert Shroud, granting us a huge amount of damage reduction, as well as being able to grant us a huge amount of extra spirit to be generated. And then we have Blinding Flash. So basically this, you want to keep it up as much as you possibly can. When it does run out, you want to make sure that you pop Serenity, because there's sometimes just a brief moment where it's not available to be activated, and that will really help you not get one-shotted by things. And then with Blinding Flash, this does 2 things. So it actually increases the damage that we will be dealing. A lot of times you'll see me try to activate it when there is a pack of elites, but the gameplay is T16, so we'll just basically run through it here. But this will basically proc our Caesar's Memento and grant ourselves a huge amount of damage bonus. So with Caesar's Memento, when the enemies are going to be blinded or frozen, we're going to hit them for a massive amount of extra bonus damage. So that's what that is going to be doing for us with the Blinding Flash. We're running Faith in the Light for the extra bonus. Now for our passive over here with the Mantra of Salvation, we just get the ability to go and have extra dodge chance, which is just basically more survivability. But on top of that, we are going to be spamming it so we can reduce our spirit, because spirit's going to go up very fast, but there are certain times where we want to try to time our spirit as well as with the Shenlongs at the same time, because with the Shenlong set, what happens is you're going to start generating a bunch of spirit, and once it reaches the maximum, you'll see that there's a Shenlong buff, and then it's going to slowly start to drain down. Now, during that duration, you're going to have a massive amount of bonus damage. What we're going to try to do is time our Convention of Elements cycle to rotate onto cold with the Shenlong bonus, and you'll see it here in a moment, where we're trying to build up these stacks with the next skill that I want to mention, which is Tempest Rush. So you'll see on this elite right here, I'm going to start building up these stacks. I'm going to make sure my Convention of Elements cycle is going to be on cold, and whenever I stop channeling, we're going to be doing a massive amount of bonus damage depending on the amount of stacks that we've generated. So what you want to do is right when it's on physical, you want to make sure that your spirit is right about to hit that maximum stack. You'll see I might be spamming a skill. So right when it rotates to cold, it procs the Shenlongs, and then we're going to get that massive amount of damage bonus, and we'll basically do a huge amount of damage to the Rift Guardian. This works even at the higher tiers of greater rifts. You're going to be dealing a massive amount of damage. Again, it's because you get all of the stacks up from Tempest Rush, rotating on the Convention of Elements. Make sure you also use the Blind to proc your Caesar's Memento, and you'll get that bonus damage. It's a little bit difficult at the start, but it is something that I will go ahead and mention right now in terms of the gameplay that is going to be different from the speed build, which doesn't even have to bother managing it. Obviously, this is going to be better for min-maxing, but at the end of the day, I know some people just don't want to bother with it, and the speed build is probably going to be a little bit better for you. But keep in mind, if you really want to min-max, you will have to time those things accordingly. So in terms of the build, they're very similar in the equipment. It's just some of the skill choices. It's just like you can go a little bit faster, and I'll show you guys the difference in the skills here. So we're going to be swapping over to the speed build in just a second here. You guys will see kind of the difference in the gameplay. The best way is to try to compare like the two different T16 gameplays so you guys can see how much faster the speed build is. But for the speed build, the only real difference right here is we don't need survivability as much because we're not pushing on the higher greater rifts, and so we're just going to try to go a little bit faster. So instead of the Serenity and the Blind, what we're going to do is you can run Dashing Strike. It doesn't really matter the rune that you choose. I'm choosing the Way of the Falling Star. This really helps out against certain maps that have gaps that you want to cross, and it just guarantees you some extra movement speed. And also, I'm going to be running the Cyclone Strike with Wall of Wind. Woolkeem Lao will basically give you a free Cyclone Strike, but instead of manually blinding the enemies and getting that damage bonus for the speed build, just so you can hold down one button and just Tempest Rush the whole time, it's just a little bit easier to have Wall of Wind activating, and it's just going to go freeze the enemies. There's also another rune change. If you want to, you can run the Cold Rune on Sweeping Wind, which will also freeze the enemies if you want to. It doesn't really matter too much. I personally prefer just running the Inner Storm just so it can proc your Shenlongs as many times as possible in the play. But that's the only real difference, and there's a few changes in the passives as well, which we'll get into. So for the main one, and as far as the meta goes, we want to run the Guardian's Path. That's just some extra form of survivability so we can dodge more. And then with Relentless Assault, it's just more damage to enemies that are blind, frozen, or stunned. Then we have Seize the Initiative, which is going to grant us extra attack speed. And the Beacon of Yitar is going to grant us cooldown reduction. Now, in terms of the pieces inside of the cube, we want Balance for extra damage with Tempest Rush. We want the Mantle of Channeling for damage reduction as well as extra bonus damage. However, there are multiple builds still running the Lefebvre's, which will also grant you a form of damage reduction. This one is better for survivability, so depending on where you're looking at. But in terms of rank 1 right now at 144, they are running the Mantle of Channeling, but these could be easily swapped in and out, whatever one that you prefer. Then Royal Ring of Grandeur, or Convention of Elements, or Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac will always roll with that reduction of the cooldown, but if you roll a really bad Convention of Elements, it might be better to put it inside of the cube, as Rolling Ring of Grandeur can also be equipped. So keep that in mind as well, depending on your rolls. But this one will always roll as attack speed, and then it also has like that defensive stat of like life per hit or something like that. So again, you can swap any of these in and out depending on the rules. And then you need Woolkeem Lao for that extra bonus multiply with Tempest Rush. And then in terms of the pieces of gear, now that we've gone kind of over both of these, you can also run Unity instead of the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac once you get your cooldowns pretty much perfect on everything. There's also Harmony. This is also another option, or Sixth Sense is another option for some extra damage reduction. But if you're running for speed build, you definitely want Fleet-Footed, as it just gives you extra movement speed. I know that there's also the variant of running Avarice Band, Boon of the Hoarder to go even faster with the regular rifts. Obviously, gold doesn't, nothing drops in the greater rifts. But if you're just doing like speed T16s, that is another option. But judging by a lot of the feedback that you guys gave, when I would give you guys different builds with Avarice Band, like you didn't want to swap into it, and I totally get that. So moving forward now, to show off like the meta build versus the speed build, I'll try to make it as easy as possible to just swap a skill versus leveling up like Boon of the Hoarder and getting Avarice Band and stuff like that. So you guys can give me some feedback. Let me know if you guys prefer that instead, because some of you guys did mention that before. When I would give you guys a speed build, you would have to have a lot of other pieces of gear, and it just took too long. The amount of min-maxing there technically exists, and I'll mention it here, but that's pretty much like a lot of builds will have like the gold wrap, Boon of the Hoarder, and stuff like that for speed builds. But just to swap it and make it a little bit easier, I'm not going to mention it in this video. And also going forward, in case you guys don't like that, let me know. But in terms of the pieces of gear, let's go over that now. So we're running the entire Patterns of Justice set. We're running 5 pieces, but we have the Royal Ring of Grandeur, so we can opt to not run one of the pieces. So what we're looking for on our helm is going to be main stat, crit chance, as well as that Tempest Rush damage. All the in parentheses where it's in the gold text where it says Caldician Despair, that's an augment. Don't worry about that if you don't have that. You can still do like GR, I'd say like 100 pretty much without augments, but that is something I'll mention. For the gems though, in the helm we do want the diamonds, actually diamonds all across the board in terms of the gems. as that's going to grant us some extra survivability with some all resist. And then in terms of the other gems, for any pushing builds, you want Bane of the Stricken. You can run Powerful. I'm running Powerful here in the background of the speed gameplay, but Bane of the Stricken's in like every single build. Then we have Taeguk. This is going to grant us damage reduction because it's granting us more armor as well as increased damage. And then we have Bane of the Trapped, which is pretty much standard for all the builds in Diablo 3. It's just going to give us some extra damage. But in terms of the amulet, we want the Flavor of Time. It's pretty much one of the best amulets in the game for doing any GR pushing builds, as it just lets us have more effect of that pylon. But what we're looking for is that elemental damage. In our case, it's going to be cold, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and it's always going to roll with that cooldown, so don't worry about having to get that. If you happen to get main stat on it, it's totally fine instead of maybe one of the stats. But ideally, you definitely want that crit hit chance as well as that elemental. Once you get enough Paragon points, the roll-off dexterity is totally a-okay. And for the shoulders, the main stat, so dexterity, and then you want that area damage and cooldown. The other stat, in terms of it being like that all resist, it can be vitality, it can be life percent, it's just some form of extra survivability is okay. On the gloves, what we're looking for is crit chance, crit hit damage, area damage, and cooldown. It's very difficult to roll all these. If you don't get, let's say, that crit hit damage or area damage and you're just getting like main stat, that's totally fine, okay, in the very beginning, but again, we're going over min-maxing here. In terms of the chest piece, the only thing that's really important to get on it is just getting that main stat, vitality, and all resists, and then if you get life percent, again, it could be like any one of those, but you definitely just want main stat on it, which it'll always roll with. And then for our bracers, we want the Caesar's Memento for that bonus that it grants us with that enemies take more damage with the Tempest Rush once they're hit by a blind or a freeze. Technically with stun too, but we're not really running it in here. But just looking for that elemental damage, ours is again cold, then you want main stat, then that crit hit chance. If it rolls vitality or life per hit or some like all resist, that's totally fine too. And then for our ring, crit damage, crit hit chance, and area damage. And then for our belt, nothing too special with this, just a bunch of defensive stats, just making sure it rolls with main stats, as sometimes when you craft these, they just don't roll with it, so that's unfortunate, but there's nothing too special with this. You'll be a-okay if you get like armor instead of one of the stats. Just make sure it still has main stat though. Now, for the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, or if you want to run like Royal Ring of Grandeur, again, any of them are totally fine. What you want is getting that attack speed. They'll always roll with attack speed, crit chance, cooldown reduction, and the reduced resource. You roll that one off to the socket. And this, we're running the Taeguk. And then for the pants, nothing too special with this. Dexterity, vitality, then you can get all resist or armor. And then for the weapons, the Shenlong set. So what we want to try to get is that area damage and cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction is the most important stat, as you really want to keep up your epiphany. If that goes away, that's where you can basically die. So trying to get that cooldown reduction at 10% on both of them. They're actually the exact same in terms of what you're looking for. So if you can get that percent damage, that area damage, and that cooldown reduction, that's ideal. And then obviously you augment the main stat on it later. For the boots, the only important thing with this to mention is getting that Tempest Rush damage and then the main stat. Again, sometimes when you craft these, they just don't happen to roll those. You can get, let's say, armor instead of the all resist as well, but it's not that big of a deal. Ideally, again, you get the best things are going to be that all resist. But that's going to pretty much wrap up things for both of the builds. There's nothing too different with the gearing process, as I try to keep it the same. Again, this is from your guys' feedback, so let me know guys how you like that. And you could swap out some of the passives over here. I'll mention some of the ones that other people have been running. You can run Sixth Sense as well. This has also been on the leaderboard for pushing. You can also run the near-death experience. So these are other options if you want to run these, but most people will definitely want to run the Guardian's Path and the Beacon of Yugioh. These two right here in particular are the ones that I would recommend pretty much to run for every single build, as they just help out so much. But you can run fleet-footed or whatever you want for the speed builds, as whatever's going to get you there faster. As long as you're able to kill things fast enough, you'll be a-okay to go on that. But anyways, that's going to wrap things up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the monk guide video, because I know it's been a while since we uploaded Diablo content, as I've been really grinding out Path of Exile with the new season. And if you guys haven't played Path of Exile, I have a completely full in-depth guide that gets you started all the way from Act 1 towards the end game, and it's the full entire tutorial, so it's not like a 20-minute video and you still feel really lost. It's the full entire thing, so you guys won't miss out on like any little intricate details, as Path of Exile is a really complex game. And if you guys want to try it out, it's completely free. Action RPG, and I know a lot of people wanted to try out that game that play Diablo, and I've been uploading a lot of it recently. It's not a sponsored Path of Exile video, it's just another action RPG that I did really enjoy, and I want to go ahead and pin it down below in case you guys want to hop in and check out some Path of Exile, as it's a game that I really do enjoy. And plus, BlizzCon is just around the corner, so once they announce like the new season for Diablo, which hopefully will be announced at BlizzCon, as well as maybe Diablo 4, I'm hoping we get some announcement of a beta, as well as if you guys want to see more Diablo content, we did recently upload a bunch of Diablo Immortal stuff, as I was invited and had the privilege to go ahead and play in the early alpha. And I'll pin some of those videos down below in case any of you guys want to check those out as well. But thanks for tuning in. If you guys are new here and want to see more Diablo, more gaming content in the future, make sure you guys to subscribe with that bell notification on, and you'll definitely see more in the future. But if you have any questions on this build, definitely let me know down below in the comment section below. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Have a good one. I'm signing out. Peace.